Hello, everyone. Welcome to All About Clout, Clout Media Festival. My name is Toye Sokunbi, and I have with me a couple of people. We're going to be discussing digital streaming and basically how new media is kind of helping the music industry evolve past traditional systems. Um, Dolapo, can you introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, my name is Dolapo. I'm the founder of a music community called We Talk Sound. I also lead a creative agency called We Talk Extra. I am a data analyst and a musician sometimes when I have time. So yeah, like I actually do have experience like across the industry from several areas, from like media, from like community building, from making music, from A&R. So yeah, basically that's why I'm here, I guess.
First of all,
Chidera.
I think community building is going to be very dope in the sense of the conversation that we're having. I didn't know that when you just said the talks, I was like, okay, so that's where I know your face from, Geeky Midget, right?
Wait, what?
Famous. I like
I know you
that.
too.
Bro,
I didn't know that you're the one behind We Talk Sound.
Wait, what?
Ugh,
Oh no,
big man.
he is. He
and you
is.
just saw
You
me
just
saying hi and
forming.
waving to you. You would have said breathe properly. Don't mind me. Hi, everybody. My name is Chidera Muoka. I am a storyteller, and I'm still trying to understand why I'm in this panel. Mostly because I used to do stuff around music when I was at the editor at a particular magazine. But yeah, that's it. Storyteller mainly.
I mean, I feel like storytelling is like it's kind of the next frontier for like music anyway. So I think we're gonna be
If
happy
the
to have you
Nigerian
once
music
this conversation
industry
starts.
decides
Let
to
this
catch it.
conversation start first. Dunnie, please can you introduce yourself and then I'll go, then we can start.
Okay, hi guys. My name is Dunnie. I'm a singer, songwriter, and music producer.
Mado.
That's pretty short. I like that.
Yeah, summary.
Once again, my name is Toye. I am a media executive, founder of Artish. I have also like worked across like different spectrums of like the music industry, from A&R, music production, songwriting, music promotions, and content marketing. So for the most part, I think the central focus of this conversation is how we are kind of going to move from this era in human history, which is basically an era which has been like marked by coronavirus. Lagos in December this year is likely not going to be like any other Lagos in December that we have seen, at least
True.
not in the last like decade. I mean, maybe minus a time when like Jonathan, when Buhari came into office. I think 2015 was a really weird December for everyone because of the economy.
That was like
But
5 years ago. Now I just used
I
to
don't
December
remember.
being dirty.
those
That's it.
Very dirty.
True.
right? But I think, I think the similarities between 2015 and 2020 kind of is how much the economy, kind of shrank because of the change in government, the other one because of coronavirus. What do you guys think about like what's gonna happen in terms of like shows and concerts and brands pumping money into like these events?
I do feel like December is still going to be dirty.
Well, I mean, that sounds like your only consideration. What else, please?
I mean, when I say December is still going to be dirty, one of the major reasons why December is dirty is because there's concerts everywhere, all the time. Like once you get into December, even if it's like really small concerts, like with independent artists, or the big ones, like with major brands, it's still like that's the major reason for me why it's
So you think
dirty.
that's still gonna happen?
Yes, I do feel like that's still going to happen because I was asking someone on the um I was about to say data side, but you asked the question. But on the data side, like what do you think the alcohol brands are doing now in terms of numbers? Because I read an article that said that Q2 was really, really bad for them. And he works in the space and he was talking to me about how it's going to pump up. I'm like, so does that mean that they're still going to do these things around this time? And he did tell me that, yeah, it's looking like that because as much as they're easing a lot of stuff, it's it's going to apply to that very, very soon. Bars are open, the beach is open. The people at a certain, um, should I call like an event space, have been having parties at the beach like almost every other Sunday.
Mm.
So that's like we're still in September, right? What October, November, and December is going to hold is still left to be unsaid for me. So I feel like yes, I think the music industry it might not be the way we're used to, right? It might not be
More like
concerts the way
driving
we're used
concerts,
to.
stuff like that.
Maybe driving concerts, maybe the one I saw at the one I saw a picture of Glasgow where they had like these sort of boxes. So that means the event producers are going to be more creative about
Right.
how they're going to set up the
Do you
event
think
space.
that will make the shows more expensive to attend?
Right, because I was
Definitely.
literally gonna go there. The cost of production for that kind of thing, even like to pull it off in Nigeria, like you're looking at potentially like breaking the bank, and like where are they going to break even? You can't do Flytime Music Festival, for example. You can't
Mm-hmm.
do it in eco hotels because nobody is going to. It's going to become like a Corona fest
Yeah.
for the most part. But I think I'm interested in hear what Dunnie has to say because like
Yeah.
yeah, you
I'm
work
actually looking at it from a
yeah, you work on
different
production of like shows, and so
Yeah.
from the revenue side, there are two groups of people. There are the artists who are on the front of the who are either in face of the people, and there are the people who work backstage, the show producers, the
Hmm.
sound mixers, all of those people, that entire ecosystem of people who are going to need to make some revenue in December. Like, what do you think is going to happen?
Well, I think personally, there's been like chatter about being another wave of corona coming. But I think that's really what's going to determine what December is going to look like. Because if I'm supposed to work with the psychology of people in Lagos, for instance, now, people are bored. People are looking forward to something exciting in December. So if we're to work with the psychology of people, I think events are really going to happen and people are going to turn out in their numbers. And but it would also depend on the government's regulation of things
Right.
and if there is need to be worried. Because have you gone out in Lagos these days?
There's traffic everywhere.
Apart from that, people are moving as if there's corona out there. People are, it's as if nothing is going on. So if I'm supposed to go with the ideology and the psychology that people are moving about with right now, and if nothing goes out of hand, it's almost as if things will go back to normal. In my mind, anyways, I'm not talking based on facts. It's looking as though by December,
Right.
everyone is going back to normal because bars are opening, restaurants are opening, everywhere is
And
just
now even
You know-
everything is just
cinemas are
normal.
back open.
Yeah. So
Right.
except like another major wave comes and people have a reason to be scared, I think by December we might not have to go through the route of doing some special events because of the pandemic or social
It might-
distance.
it might- it might
Because
be
if we
business as
have
usual.
to, it might be business as usual. But if you have to go back to I'm not sure Nigeria we are ready for that.
I think I remember
Technically
I
speaking.
remember seeing someone advertising like a kind of like a booth, like a cleansing booth where you walk through to get to where you're going.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder if that's kind of become it's so like it's so
I did see something
dystopian,
like
it's
that
like
at
See the Naira
Palms,
Marley concert when
but
they
it
tried
didn't
something
work.
different, like a driving.
yeah,
Something.
people
It
came
went
down
out
from
of,
their
it
cars,
went
they went
out.
out, it got out of
We're
hand.
not ready. Like Nigerians, as a people, psychologically, we're not ready for.
I mean, it's also
social
because the numbers are
distancing.
not like the way they are internationally,
Yeah.
right? So a lot of people, and I'll say we're the 1% or like part of the 10% in terms of like the classes that we have in Nigeria. A majority of the people do not believe that it ever came in the first place. Like they don't
Right,
believe in
yeah, yeah.
in the
Also,
whole virus. They
there
just
was
feel
also the
like it was.
propaganda that it was only rich people that
Yeah,
could get
so
affected.
there's that. I really
Yeah.
did see someone's article this week that still maintained the fact that it was no, and it was published by a reputable media house.
But if
I
we tie
mean-
that back to the music industry, what would you say the people that don't believe that there's COVID are the people that would typically contribute revenue?
I think
That's what
lit-
I was about
was-
to say. I do
Because
not
that's
think.
Well, that's a
I was
good
even
question.
thinking I was even thinking that I don't know if anybody saw this clip of like a kid from Miami, like at the beginning of coronavirus, like they were trying to go on spring break, and he was basically like, if I get coronavirus, I get coronavirus.
Yeah, yeah.
Like at the end of the day, I'm not gonna let him stop me from partying or something like
Yeah,
that.
I think I heard
I feel like in a few months we're going to think that guy's ahead of his time. Like
To be honest, that's what I think too.
we're going to think
Especially
that guy
Nigeria,
was
yeah.
ahead of his time because, we have through human history, right? We have gone through different phases of like, different kind of like pandemics and diseases. And at some point, we have to depend on herd immunity. When you have a disease that you don't really have a cure for, and you can't also ascertain the rate of infection or the way it actually like is transmitted. Like there are people who, for example, will tell you they lived in a house with like partners who had coronavirus, and like the partner tested positive and they tested negative, and they did the second test and it was still negative. At the same time, the interesting thing I think is that the brands who are going to be bold enough to brave the controversy to put their money behind like big concerts in December, they may either be pioneers or they may be set for the bush. So I mean, that's a great argument. What I want to, I mean, what I think I want to, see though is or consider and kind of just have this conversation, even as we're here having like a kind of virtual conference. Um, what do you guys think has been the impact of how we have kind of virtualized everyday life now, like especially as it concerns like the media and music industry, considering our homecoming, usually it's a big music festival that happens about Easter. Not only was it postponed for the longest time, now they're considering like a virtual version of it. Do you guys think it's going to have the same effect? And what do you guys think about that? Like, in fact, like sustainability for that. Like, what do you guys think?
I mean, in terms of eventing, I think Nigeria is just getting to where a lot of people have been before, where they can actually transcend to virtual events. Like half of the awards that were scheduled for this year were done virtually, and people still, showed up. People still did their thing. So we're just getting to that part where maybe they were in like 2010. Concerning
Why do you think that's so?
in terms of the experience, right? So for people who constantly go to events, it's about the experience, right? And right now we are just getting used to the experience. Concerts, the niche events, we're just getting started on that experience of events. And now it's almost telling me do it virtually. It's like how will I still experience this? The whole point was leaving my
So,
house,
but
going out with friends.
I feel like that's one side to look at it from. One side is how rich the experience is. The other side is how many people can afford to pay for
Yeah.
data, even if the experience is premium. Like how many people can actually afford to experience.
But if
Yeah, I
you
mean,
were gonna pay to go to the event,
Dolapo has access to a community, for example. I feel like
Yep.
within that community, a lot of artists, how are they navigating this, for example? Considering what you just said.
Okay, so for us, we have always been online as a community. We're like 90% online and we're 10% offline events. So that's always been. So we literally have a group where everybody is, and then Twitter with social media. So we're social media heavy, streaming heavy, and Telegram heavy. So that's how we are based. So to the artists in my community, for the size of for the level or the heights that they've reached so far, I don't think they have really depended on live, on like physical live to
Make
make
revenue.
because many of them are still in the breaking out,
Stage.
transcending from I'm just, trying to write my numbers up to beginning to make revenue.
So, I
So
mean,
they're not really affected. In fact, it can be argued that for artists at that level, it has been more of a positive effect for them because more people are
because
online
I
to
mean,
experience these things that they're putting out.
I may slightly disagree, but not really in the sense of the benefits of virtualizing like the music experience for like people now, and what that does for like upcoming artists. But I also wonder, like, especially for people behind the scenes, like we are moving into an era where, for lack of a better word, clout is as valuable, is almost considered as valuable as, say, like actual talent or actual experience, right? Which means in a world that's going virtual, only people who have developed, who have built a certain level of clout can kind of, go back into that. Okay, I'm just gonna be in my house making records. Do you think it's sustainable? Like, I don't. I wonder. I worry about sustainability in the long run. That people who do not have the resources, who do not have the money to like pump into Twitter promo, who don't have the access to like reach Platoon or any of those services that promise you, high engagement and promotions. Like those people, what is gonna happen to them?
I think
And that
it's a situation where they would have to adapt. When she was saying things going back to normal, and I think I've heard a lot of people say things going back to normal, I'm one of the people that believe there has to be a new normal, right? Like we'll need to leave the era where we were able to do certain things in certain ways. I'm not. It's like what you just spoke about herd immunity. We would have to find these ways to adapt to the new reality that we're going to have not post COVID, because it's not like it's going to go anywhere, but when we're able to manage the situation better, because it might not be sustainable because we're thinking about it with the current reality of everything being physical, things being a certain way, but the reality is changing in the workspace. People aren't working from the office all the time. People are working remotely sometimes.
so you think the same thing could happen in the music industry, quite literally?
I don't think, because like I said, I don't think it will happen in the music industry because they've not found new, like the new reality hasn't hit on them just yet. We're just talking about concerts, and I don't know much about that, but I'm speaking about like the music industry, like in general, in terms of every other element that has to work. Like he's saying, he's built a community that has been 90% online. That is going to be a blueprint to what other communities could be, in terms of the new reality. And it might be a 50-50 thing where it's not longer that you have most of these things happening live. It's a thing of there are options. It can either happen this way, or it can
You know,
either happen
Remember
that
that
one
way.
way.
interesting thing is before COVID, I used to actually tweet a lot about online concerts. Like I just started tweeting a lot about the possibility of like even while a concert is going on in maybe Headies Award or whatever, and some people just choose to not attend physically. Like I want to stay in my house and attend this event. I can also
Yeah.
pay, so there's a paywall. I pay and I stream it virtually, and people were like, "That's not
Big
gonna
shout out
happen.
Coco concert, by the way.
We
I
don't
think
have."
the band first tried out that concept. I can't remember what year. Maybe it was probably like 2011 or 2012. 2012,
That was
I
a long
think.
time ago.
12th of December. Yeah, I'm old.
That was
Sorry.
on this year.
He
Really?
yeah
He did?
he live streamed Coco concerts,
Oh.
the entire thing, and
So how many
which was
people? Do you have any
great.
idea like
What?
what the numbers were? The viewers?
Um, I don't know, but I remember like the average people who were live streaming, because I think it was like a YouTube live stream. The average number of people who were online at a particular time or the other were between like 30 and like 40K, and maybe peak was maybe about 80K. I think it
That's
was
not
streamed.
bad
I think
for-
No, no,
another
it was streamed. Was
example
streamed.
For
Was streamed via.
2012.
Was streamed via in Danny. I
The,
think.
the experience does that too, because they have a lot of people.
Have you
that
worked
go-
with them?
No, I've not worked with them, but I know that I don't go because people are too many. I don't like.
Yeah, I know a friend of
crowd.
mine
So
got
I-
robbed once after.
Yes, I know that me and a couple of friends will always prefer to watch it from home. So I know that there is like a market for that for people that are really not as social.
Yeah, I think the problem begins when you start to try to monetize it.
Yeah,
Free-
exactly.
So that
Exactly.
Erica Badu format, for example, where
Yeah.
she had like a paywall up, it kind of works for her style of music, but like again, like she already has the
and,
clout.
and her location. So here's one problem in Nigeria. Even when you can afford to pay for stuff, you have bank card issues. You can't
Right.
actually
So
pay.
I was even gonna circle
So-
back to that about how like, she's Chidera was talking about how like we need to adapt, and how we kind of need to move away from what was happening before. What conversations that I feel like we need to start to have now is, does this mean we're going to dismantle the seasonal system for Nigerian music? And Nigerian music does have its seasons.
Definitely.
You have the
Mm.
even now, as I feel like the global music industry already knew about new music Fridays like for many years. It's kind of been like a big, everybody knows music drops on Friday, but like Nigerians just caught on to it, and since then nobody drops music on any other day.
Bastardization.
I think
And-
people are tending a little towards Thursdays now. So Thursday evening it drops, or Thursday.
And then the
you know,
conversation
Yeah.
starts
so
overnight. People
start
wake
talking
up to
about
the
it
con-
before other songs.
Yeah,
drop.
yeah.
they wake up to the
But then-
conversation
That's
on
what
Friday
Burna did with
morning.
his album,
It's going
right?
to get to.
Yeah,
I think
yeah, it was a
Burna did-
Thursday. It was Thursday.
Yeah.
Wiz,
Because I remember waking
Wiz
up and I'm
dropped
just
a
like,
video yesterday, which was a Thursday. I think he dropped even Smile itself on his birthday, which I don't think was a Friday. Wiz
No.
has been, but
No.
it's actually worth noting that Wiz has been using a lot of sentimental marketing. If you
Yeah,
notice,
yeah.
his birthday was a day where he couldn't miss.
You
no
know,
matter what
his
he dropped
family,
on
his
birthday,
kids,
people were going
his
to
kids
be
were in
sentimental
smile.
and say it's Wiz's birthday.
Mm.
Then he dropped the video with his kids and stuff. You can't say I
know,
don't like the video.
and it
You
was-
can't
it was-
say
You'd be
it's
like
a
a
bad
bad
video.
we
belly.
can't really say.
I mean, you
You know,
can
you
say,
wa-
but
you
like,
can
you
say
don't
it,
want
but
to
now
look
you don't want
good.
to look
That's
bad.
it's a really heartfelt, like it's a really warm video. Like you really smile when you watch it.
so that can make us like segue into strategies that people.
Thank you very
people are
much.
using
Thank
or
you
can
very much.
use
Thank
to
you very
engage
much.
people
Thank you
now.
very much.
So
So
like, sentiment's like a huge one. Like
So, because it's kind of like that's another thing, especially in this part of the world. There aren't a lot of pioneers or blueprints. Shout out to Dolapo. Dolapo is actually like, I feel like we
What
should
I
just
said
give him
in
like
the
a
video,
little,
guys.
Legend.
What I
like a
said.
little.
Legend.
But we don't have a lot of blueprints. So usually, once one person starts something and they're good at it, like everybody's like, right, like that guy has done it well. So we're just gonna like move. We don't even want to ask why he started doing like what his strategy is. If people start to move away from new music Fridays gradually, maybe we'll get someone who will drop their music on a Monday or drop it on Tuesday, and then have like a whole rollout that stretches up till Friday, like leads the conversation up to Friday. But again, like it kind of goes back to the conversation of sustainability for careers who are kind of just starting out.
yeah.
If you notice, before, to be considered a breakout artist, it means you need to reach a certain threshold for, like, say, like social media engagement, say, your public profile in general. Now those accounts have gotten smaller, especially on social media. Like the A&R people who used to kill themselves over, like, you don't have enough number. I wonder what they are doing now. I'm really worried about them. I'm worried about what they are doing now. And
I think that now there's a huge perception thing going on that we're all, no matter how much we want to deny it, we're all sort of a part of, because that's what the world, that's how that's how people judge things now. So you would see a musician, an artist who released maybe a project and works with maybe one of the top distributors, or someone who's a plug, who's
Right.
a like solid plug in the game. Um, and then you would see that the music is everywhere, or seems to be everywhere digitally. So it's on playlists, it's on all playlists on Spotify, Apple Music, everywhere. It's maybe number 7, number 8. It has decent numbers on charts. And then you see the artist, you check out the artist himself or herself on social media, and then the artist has like 1,500 followers, and you're like,
how?
who are the people streaming your music? Don't they know you? So it's like the power is still very much concentrated in the hands of a few. The same way it was during the Alaba era, radio era. It's the same.
There's still
So,
the cabal.
Same thing. There's
Damn.
still like
A cabal.
There's still
Yeah.
a bunch of.
I don't
people.
I don't like to indulge conspiracy theories, by the way, about cabals.
I don't think it's like. I'm
Do
not
you
even-
do
I
you
mean,
do you
it's-
need to use that word now?
Okay. Yeah.
He used numbers, right? To
Yeah,
just
use-
explain
use-
it.
I don't think it's a conspiracy theory. It's just what
It's
it is.
reality.
Like, it's an access thing. Yeah, like okay, I have a community now that I've built over 4 years. I know a bunch of people in the industry that I can send stuff to. So if you're an artist and I like you, and like I say, okay, let's work together on this. Give me this percentage of your streams, and I'll be your executive producer, I'll plug or whatever. And then I send music to my friend at Spotify, to my friend at Apple, to my friend at this and that, and then they get music everywhere. And then you might be a totally unknown artist, but the music is good.
Yeah,
But you
the
just
music is
don't know how to put
popping.
it out there. And then through me, you do all of that, and then I get celebs to tweet it. So that's another strategy. Like you work with someone who's big enough to convince like big artists to tweet or post your stuff on Instagram, and everybody says, you see Wizkid posting something, or you see Davido hyping someone, and it's like, if Davido is hyping this person, I should check it out, and everybody checks it out, and then numbers go boom, 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 and then when you're releasing your next track or project,
You already
you
have
have
enough
you
class.
have
It's
statistics
small.
to show Apple. And
Yeah.
you're like, my last release, I got this, I got
You know,
500k streams without your support
anything,
or
you
whatever.
just tell Platoon
So
to
now
now-
support me proper.
Yeah.
And then you now see the person front page on one of the streaming platforms.
I feel
And
like- I feel
That's
like-
how
that's
people blow
just
up.
how it
That's
works.
literally how it
There's
works
no
now.
one that's blown in the last 2 years that doesn't have this
Blueprint.
formula. Yeah.
So I think this access conversation is very interesting because a lot of times, and this is kind of like as a young person who kind of grew up, watching a lot of things happen in the music industry, I can tell you for a fact that a lot of times when you get to the peak of what makes certain people like I don't want to use the word I want to
Say
use, but makes them the access people. Because if I use, yeah, you guys stop because, what makes certain people like the access people is just information. It's not even like a grand thing. It's like, oh, they just spend more time Googling stuff. And then
maybe outside of Nigeria.
They just
Within
spend
more- in Nigeria.
I tend to.
No.
I might disagree a bit. I would say that from what I found, there's a lot. So amongst people that would call access people, there are people that actually know their stuff, and there are people that know their stuff a little less than the other people.
So-
So like, I feel like there's a strong part of just being social and being like knowing people.
So more like
that's
your
important.
network.
Like go out to events. Like now I've come here, I've met you guys. Next time you write for you own artists in fact, or you write somewhere, or you work somewhere, you're an OAP somewhere. I meet you and we network, and then next time I promote one of my artists, I'm like, you guys, my artist is dropping.
Yeah.
Send to you.
Support.
I mean,
And
yeah.
then people see it everywhere. People see it on newspapers. People see it, and you're like, and that effect of like seeing something everywhere is actually such a thing.
The ripple effect.
It's a perception thing,
It's a perception
right?
thing, and then you're like, oh my god, this guy is blowing up. I need to check it out too. I need to get on the wave too. And then you get on the wave, and
So, this is still within the context of the access conversation, right? Chidera, someone who used to work in one of Nigeria's traditionally, traditionally royal. I'll
Hope
say
you
I'll
can't
say
see the
like
eye I'm
legacy
giving
media.
you.
Yeah, traditionally legacy media. Like, what what do you think is gonna be the progression from the era of paid PR, which is basically what's happened before, to this era
Did you
of
say before?
I mean, well, it's still happening. It's just I just don't think like what he just said now about how like if you see the artist
Yeah.
here used to be the thing that managers used to focus on before. Like I want my artist to be played on Cool FM, I want it to be played on Sound City, and I want the person to be played on XYZ, aired here, published there. But now it's also now like people no longer want to do those relationships fictitiously. Like that's why I mean that like more people there are people who for example have the clout to like reach out to me and I'd be like, oh yeah, I'll do it. But there are people who can't, right? And those people who have the clout to reach out to me, like it's because they've to an extent like built it and they've built a kind of reputation that I kind of respect. But before it was just straight up like people getting paid, backdoor deals, that kind
Yeah.
of thing. So what do you think is the progression from that?
Um, like I said, and I don't mean to be like the devil in all of this, but people still do heavily. And it might not just be for the traditional media platforms, it might be even for the
Even
placement
for
on
streaming.
No,
playlists
definitely,
and streaming.
definitely.
So
That's kind of been the progression of
yeah,
like
so I don't think like those it's payola as they call it, right?
yeah, payola they call
Yeah,
it.
I don't think it's going anywhere soon because a lot of the times you don't have what he just described, where people just genuinely support because of the creativity behind or the talent behind
you know,
it.
I might
always
have,
in
And
these-
I'm
maybe you
talking
got the impression
no,
that I meant creativity, but
no,
what I
like
mean is just network. So if I send my
no, I
artist
did
stuff
get
to
that.
you,
That's why I'm saying
you
like
can send your artist stuff to me too. And
if you do
expect the
send your
same
artist
thing.
stuff to me and I do not like it, I would
No,
not
definitely,
publish it.
definitely.
So
That's
in
another
terms of
thing.
support, right? In terms of the way I
There's
said about the network, it's also in like, okay, does this really work with the
it's,
platform
the trade
in terms
relationship
of
could be complicated
yeah.
basically.
So I don't believe like a lot of people have moved away from that. They still feel the need to back that up. Like so for me, with one of the things I said around storytelling is, I wrote an article about Burna Boy's promotion for Twice as Tall in the initial like when it dropped Thursday night, and I woke up around 6 a.m. on Friday. It was trending, and I felt like it wasn't trending because everybody had listened to it. It was because all the creatives involved in the project were talking about it. The person that did the album art, Didi, was heavily talking about it. They had videos of their session, and I felt that that was organic storytelling. Right now, a lot of people do not do that yet. So there is no intentionality with what they're
With
doing.
the strategy.
Yeah, so it's almost a situation where you do
You know, it's a
you
it's,
do
it's, it's
you
a new
create a
Music
project,
Friday template all
right?
over
So you
again.
create a
Everybody's
project,
releasing music on
you create
Friday.
a project, and then you heavily rely on, say, a network of people that would help you push it or paid promotions to help you push it. It doesn't sell itself. However, you want to tweak that a little bit, instead of putting the cart before the horse, or what did they say? You want to tweak that a little bit and have a strategy that kind of pushes the music itself, even if it's not how great it sounds. It's the elements that have been put
So the
into
story
it,
behind
to the
like
story
how it was
behind it
created.
that
Yeah,
moves it,
because-
and then everybody. Because I remember then at this when I was the editor, I was always intrigued by things that were not sensational. I wanted to put things that, when you want to put things in the spotlight, I wanted to do that, especially for people that have put in the hard work before. So it's like a situation of, I've moved this far, push me further.
So, you know why this is very important? Because I remember during the early days of Native, even everybody, used to ask us, how are you people making money from this thing? Are you people collecting money? Like, you just write something about artists that will never blow. It's like, there is this perception that if you don't back something that's sensationalist, that you're not going to, like, eat from it. And for me, I would say, like, one of the consequences of a time when, like, you can no longer go from being a bedroom artist to performing at Star Mega Jam, because that's literally what used to happen. An artist will go from recording his first big hits that year, and by December, he's on stage with Wizkid at Star Mega Jam, with Burna Boy, the biggest artist in Nigeria. Like, no other industry has that. Artists go from, like, performing small ballrooms to performing at clubs, even performing from the college dorm rooms, clubs, and so on and so forth. And then they kind of progressively move up to the point where they can, like, take on the O2, take on the Barclays Center, that kind of thing. But in Nigeria, like, you're straight up telling me, like, this guy, this 21-year-old kid.
So let me bring something into the conversation. There's this question that someone asked within our community a few days ago. he said that what's the goal when an upcoming artist who's relatively unknown drops a project, like what's the goal? And I'm like, the truth is, if you look at how Nigerian music industry works, because there's very little data documentation of processes that have worked to get people to where they are now. What an upcoming artist, and then in the wake of the fact that streaming is nascent, it's just beginning.
Right.
Before, when there was no streaming, now at least with streaming, I can record my music in my house. Like, I have recording equipment in my house. I don't even really record by own, so I mean, I can literally wake up 1 minute midnight and record a song and put it on DistroKid
And just go to sleep and to be
Spotify
there.
everywhere. Before, there wasn't that. So now that's changing a bit, but for the most part, it's still working. And then the plan is really to meet someone who's going to help you blow up.
And this thing.
So that was your
it's
question.
nothing.
Was that the
But
answer to that
there's
particular
an answer
question?
to why.
That's the answer. That's
You know-
my answer to what the plan is for an upcoming
Yeah.
artist. It's like, it's not, the plan is not, I want to have 1,000 fans today, and tomorrow I want to have 1,500, and next day I want to have 2,000. It's like, I want to have 1,000 today, but I want to meet person X, who I know that if he hears my music, he's going to tweet about it, or he's going to sign me, or whatever.
But I
So it's like, you're working to get that
problematic.
Yeah, I wonder about that because this thing you just said about how like you could just like record music in your bedroom and put it on DistroKid. It didn't happen before. Like
Yeah.
before, what happened was there were a couple of people who kind of masked it. Like you know, that them distributing your music for you was
Was
a
a
kind of
big
grand
deal.
thing, and they will
Was a
collect
grand
money
thing.
from you.
It's a grand thing.
So that's what I mean by like it was a lot of times when you actually dig, it's just access to
It's just
information.
That's legit. Cause there's something I tweeted a while ago. I was just checking through YouTube, and I noticed that a bunch of huge Nigerian songs, music videos, are not on the artist pages. They're just uploaded by random people years ago, maybe like from 10
Yeah.
years ago. So maybe someone was just like, I know how to use YouTube. Follow me, upload them for yourself.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah, and you
they
just
probably
collect
didn't
money
think
from
they'll
them.
ever
Just say,
make money
I
from
ever
it.
put your video
then
online.
And they have
10
views.
huge Nigerian songs. So I think
Views.
suddenly the band, or is it falling in
Views
love?
for
Songs like
days.
huge
So,
songs that were hits.
You know, that was why iRockin ran into problems now. iRockin ran into problems because artists were trying to recoup their money. And this is after, iRockin just sold them on the trip of, well, I put your music online. This is a
like-
new one. Like, now the new one be this. And this was like post Alaba. So you can imagine niggas were like super psyched.
So you see the thing you said about information. I honestly believe like media platforms should do more of this. Like I've learned a lot about the music industry in 1 week from Kanye just tweeting,
Right.
right? And this information, we're not like everything you're saying to me is mind busting
I am-
because when you're writing articles, when music journalists are writing articles, you're profiling half of the time. There's nothing around the industry itself.
the-
Do you understand? How does it work?
insights, the
What do you need to
structure.
do? Like, as someone in your community, right? That question he asked you, if he had gone on, Google to check, what are the
would
things I
he
need to
find?
do? What would he find? He
He'll
probably
find stuff around America.
right.
Yeah.
Nothing that nothing
Yeah,
that
because-
relates
So that's
to
something
him,
we are trying to
So-
change.
right?
We do these things we talk sessions. So we've had like I think 5 or 6 now.
Yeah, I think I've
With
seen a couple
some
of
people
them.
Some from Audio Mark, some from Trailer, some
Dope.
from Native. So we have stuff. So we're bringing someone from Warner, I think next week. So we do stuff, and then within the community as well, that's not publicly, like we actually discuss and break down stuff. So every member of our community is actually, I'm pretty sure, is more enlightened than the average artist.
Right,
out
and
there.
like,
Just
I think that's great. I think that's very important because for the most part, what the media in Nigeria has kind of done, that's why like when we broke out with Native at the time, people were so afraid and they were so angry because a lot of artists that they will have been prime targets for payola money. Like they couldn't,
You're just giving them
we're
spotlights.
just giving them spotlights, and based on the virtue of their talents, I just like we think you make good music and we think you should be famous. Like that's why you're doing it, and so people were easily, they were surprised that these people, you can try this kind of thing and make it work.
Yeah.
Now everybody's now trying to like create like a model that allows you to kind of like convince people, but it's still like that same thing where you see one person doing something, everybody just goes ahead and just copies the thing without like
Yeah.
asking the right questions. I think the media's job to inform people is also kind of still goes back to that thing about how like which kind of writers, what kind of like publications do we support, what like at the end of the day, brands will still, you still want to work with the brand, and some of them will still go back and say, well, we want like this brand because they have better social media numbers and everything. Like, I definitely agree with some of the sense of that because engagements is great, but what kind of stories do you want to be told?
Mhm.
Like, um, the worst part I would say of like music culture in Nigeria is how like people who have access to this information, even though these information bubbles are not that big, like it's actually just like a small bit, a little bit of insight could open your mind to like a bunch
A
of other
lot,
things,
yeah.
right? But people kind of form like cults of personalities around what they know.
So yeah, that's another thing that.
Like, how would you avoid that? For example, you run a music community that, because technically, we talked sound a few years ago. If a project like yours would have been a label straight up.
Yeah.
So how do you run that kind of egalitarian, I mean, seemingly egalitarian music community?
So to be honest, it's partly just cause in the beginning it was never about any kind of gain. It was always about all of us liked music. All of us sort of made music. Like I make music. So some of us knew we're not going to ever do it like seriously. It was just for fun. And then we had friends who we felt like could actually make it.
And they
Like
should
Chidera,
blow.
for instance, like from the jump of his career, like from his first song ever. Like I was there when he recorded it, and I helped him. Like then he didn't even like niggas didn't even know how to upload songs on SoundCloud. Niggas didn't know. Like we learned that like from the beginning. So that's what it always was. And then we built the community. Time passed. You know, we got people join from like different parts of the country and all. And then it's like yes. Now we have been able to create a model that allows us support people. So a tiered model, so like a 3-tiered model. So we launched an agency last year because we saw that external people that, you know, big artists, brands, they're reaching out to us because like we like what you're doing. And then we're like, okay, fine. Let's create something else that allows us be a company and then earn from people that can afford to pay. So now it's like we have 3 different tiers. Ground tier is community. Anybody can get supported. If you like your music, we have a playlist, we have our assets, our social media, we can push you. You don't have to pay anything. You don't have to just off of your quality
Your
of your
talent.
music. Second tier is label services, so where we actually work with you like more
A&R,
hands-on. So
creative
A&R,
direction.
creative direction, all of that. And then if you can't pay, most of them can't pay, so it's like, okay, we negotiate like a percentage of your royalties. So the same way distributor is taking 30%, we'll take a percentage, we'll agree with you on a percentage and then work with you through your project. So it's like we're offering our services. So maybe a service that would have charged ₦1 million for instance,
You subsidize
we'll charge nothing and then just do it and then say, okay, let's take
whatever
20%
comes from it.
of your royalties. And then you know that many of these artists, before 20% of an upcoming artist royalties,
Yeah,
would be
that's what I was
1 million.
going
That's
to
probably
say.
so we're actually investing
Yeah,
our time,
long term.
our skills, and then our personal network. So like I know people from across several places. Like when we're promoting anything, we share. So that's the second tier. And the third tier is the agency where it's like we work with events, brands, big artists who are actually good. So that's like you're paying premium price.
For strategy
so that way,
and rollout.
even though it took like 4 years to figure it out, because at first we tried to do different things. At some point I wanted to build a streaming platform. At some point I wanted to build
Oh right, at some point I was like a merchandise platform.
So like,
I mean,
but
that's the beauty
you
of growing,
iterate
no?
over time, and then
Yeah.
now it's like, okay,
This is what
we now have
do.
a structure where I can comfortably, because at some point I couldn't pitch. I used to meet people. I've met a lot of people, global music industry leaders, global tech leaders, but I couldn't pitch because I didn't figure out what I was doing. Like they would ask simple questions and I'll be like, "Oh, okay, maybe. But now I'm confident because I know that I have a structure. So whatever stage you're at as an
I got
artist,
you.
you can fit into one of them. If you're just starting but you're good, you fit into community, will support you. So we get to the point where we see that you're investable. We can invest our
You're
1 million
marketable.
naira worth of services into you and say, okay, maybe it's 10 years, you get the money back. We don't care.
Right.
Let's just do it. And then so you get to the point where you are blown up enough to come and say, okay, I want to do this. And we're like, okay, $10,000 and you pay.
Right.
So that way any artist fits into. So that way we've been able to build that structure.
I think what he said that really clicked to something you said at some point is the point of, I think it goes full circle, right? Why most of the problems, like why there are most of the problems I think there are in the music industry is because a lot of things are not being thought of long term, right? And it's not just because you're here, it's because of what you said. I do feel like that's a long-term plan that is going to reap benefits, not just in the now. A lot of the things you find about the music industry is like there's nothing sustainable. This person is big today, he's not tomorrow. This person, and when he's not. It's not about just being big that your song blew. Is that we need to do GoFundMe for whatever problem.
This is actually the problem.
Like this is that you have to do GoFundMe for the
major
problem. Aside from that, it's also about like the institutions. They fade in and they fade out. So basically, what you've created is like, if at some point Dolapo is like, see, my 9 to 5 is going to take up my attention. He's created a structure that works.
And
And
it
it
can be
works.
automated,
It works
basically.
long term, right?
So-
And in terms of like payola and all of those things, it's not like when something comes from him, they know it's legit. Do you get?
Exactly. So
And
it-
so I am sorry that I keep cutting you short. I'm so sorry. Yeah, but I think that's the beauty of growing. That's the beauty of knowing the value of what is, and that's why I said initially my sentiments about the music industry.
In Nigeria.
Yeah, in Nigeria, like right now, there's nothing substantial. You look at the people over there, and they've been able to make money. They start with music and they grow into other things. Right here, it's quite reversed, because even in terms of blowing, when your artist or I don't know, the person in your community asks that question, I don't think the intention is to meet somebody to make you blow, right? I don't think the intention is to blow in the sense that they're playing your music everywhere. It's a long term, like it's a long game.
Precisely.
I think
people
you're
don't
playing the
play
long
the
game.
organic long
Yeah,
game.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, this is a problem because everything we've been saying is just channeled in one direction. And as a creative, what I realized is that you don't have to blow. Why do you have to blow? Like, why do you have to blow?
because you want more money. You want to be the
Okay,
biggest
but
in the
you know
world.
you can
want to be
make money.
Drake.
You can
That's
actually
why.
make money without blowing. There are different ways where you can make music and make money with it.
Okay.
I realized that and I decided to work towards it. How? Making music for brands, ads, games, movies. But a lot of these
Yeah, this
young
is- and
artists
thi-
do not want to do that. They
All
just
of
want
this
to.
It's information. I think it's information. It's also
It
perception.
definitely is.
But
For-
she's
for
saying they
instance,
don't
the
want to
kind
do that, and
the
I'm
kind
thinking
of
she's
money
coming
I've
from
made
experience.
from brands.
Well, when you mean they don't
I
want to do
don't
that,
think-
you mean like they're lazy or
No,
like
I
or they,
feel like
Because their
everybody has a
perception of blowing is
mindset. The
different.
mindset of
Like,
blowing in
yeah.
Nigeria is like, I have a hit song and my song
I'm-
is playing
and I'm
on-
popping in the
and
clubs.
I'm popping in the clubs. But there
And
are
I'm
other
making
ways, and that
sure
doesn't
money.
last.
yeah.
And that doesn't last because how many
Dude, like I
6
feel-
months ago the
I
songs that
feel,
were
I
popping
feel,
are not
I
popping
feel,
right
I
now.
feel like
Yeah.
that model of jumping from your bedroom and recording on Fruity Loops in your bedroom to start Mega Jam is literally like the Nigerian version of Blood Money. That's what's
It's the Nigerian
Yeah,
dream. It's the
true.
Nigerian dream that transcends the music industry, that goes into that filters
exactly
into
because
every
this
section.
thing,
That makes sense.
You want to go from being unknown today to being the richest person.
this
and it's
this-
more about the glam
It's more
than
about
it's
the
about
glam than the
anything.
work.
the structure and information conversation is perfect for the cloud era because this thing you just said also affects like the ecosystem around the music industry, producers, like art directors. Like you still have like, for example, middlemen who chunk out a lot of revenue for these people just because they were your plug. I was trying to avoid using that word. Like,
Yeah, but
shout
I mean,
out.
it's
I
what
like
it
that
is.
you came
Shout out
back
the
to
people.
it.
Shout out people that need to be shouted out to. But
I want to hear
I think
Dunnie
that a lot
speak
of-
more about the like
the artist side,
not the artist side. We've been speaking about it like almost like she said, like in a particular
one way,
dimension.
yeah.
One dimension, and she is just looking at us like, you guys don't know anything.
You don't know how much I'm
Do
know,
you
because,
understand?
you know,
It's not
the
just
reason
about
is
how much she's
because-
made, even with her creativity. So I want to know because she's like, most of these people don't even want to do it. So I'm intrigued.
Oh yeah, so like I said, yeah, there are a lot of ways to make money with music that people are not actually looking at because everybody just wants to release music. But you can actually keep releasing your music and still keep doing other things. Now what you have is artists that keep dropping music and then they are hoping that one day one is going to pop, and then when it doesn't pop, they keep getting depressed and they don't want to do 9 to 5 because you're creative, you can't survive in 9
Yeah.
to 5, and then you are hungry, you are not changing your clothes, and your parents are disturbing you. What's up? So there is supposed to be like a balance between how artists can actually be financially smart, how to convert their music into money. Guess what? I don't think music itself makes money. I think it is the use of music that makes wealth. Do you understand?
Oh, my spoken words people. Hi.
She gets so when your guy was asking that, okay, when I keep releasing music, the EP, what do I get with it? What does it do? He's building his catalog, and an artist is only as strong as his or her catalog. So the more music you have, the more how would you call it? It's property, intellectual property you have.
Yep, it's
The
like
more
assets.
investments, the more assets you have. So anything can happen in the next 5 years, and then you can get an opportunity
And then
to
with
to
like,
reap
create-
benefits
yeah,
of that
with
catalog.
like TikTok.
yeah,
to,
Yeah,
exactly.
I think it's an
'cause-
information thing
your
because
song can get
ultimately,
into a
like,
challenge and then you blow up.
Exactly.
Ultimately-
Exactly.
But now we have people intentionally trying to create challenge. Boys, miss me with
It's
that.
not bad either.
I mean,
You know,
it's
you
not
never know.
bad.
Okay,
Depends, like,
I
Pussy
always
Slide
make
was
an
very
example
deliberately
for.
created.
I made a music for an ad for Ciroc, right? And the way that happened was because I just made music and I was sending out to people. Like if I'd not created that music and I was releasing it and sending it out to people, that might not have happened.
You know,
So
that's
you
what
have
I
to
was
take
saying.
initiative.
That's literally what I was saying about how like the information thing is so is a lot more complex than like meeting someone who would like help you blow. The difference between someone like Dunnie who would send her music in the blind to people who I just feel like could be interested, and somebody who is waiting for a Bizzle or an Esa Sika or a Kenny Ogungwe to like take him to the next stage in his career is that like they don't think they can do it on their own. And not only that, like it also means that like their idea of what it means to blow is very warped. This thing is
I mean, it is rap because the only representation they have of musicians that are successful are the ones that have gone from
Precisely.
this to that. Like,
Precisely, I was
if
going
I
to say
still
that.
worked at this media house, I would definitely do a spotlight on Dunnie and
You know-
what she's doing because that's the way you change information. Now, most of the when you say true media, it's not just through the traditional platforms that we have, maybe online blogs or
Right.
anything.
Right.
It's also word of mouth. It's also through music. I do realize that I started listening to really nice music on Danny, and I realized it was doing
the
it.
Ox sessions, right? Or
No, like on the Skinny Girl in Transit, on all of this,
you
it
were
was,
doing
it
it?
was,
Oh,
yeah,
doing.
it was literally,
Oh, that was
it
doing.
was like a lot of independent songs,
Oh,
and then you're
makes
like, you
sense.
Shazam that, you like that, and then you go look for it. So true media, it's like different ways. She's also doing the ad. I know that there is no, as much as their network sucks, there's no Airtel ad I'm not singing to. I promise you, I will leave it. I wouldn't skip.
because it's good music.
Because it's
Yeah,
good
the
music.
music
It's
is
fun.
good.
You move
It's
along
like
to
that
it.
Access Bank song. That was that Access Bank. Oh, that was that was such a nice song. That was such
Do
a
you
nice
get
song.
that? So I feel like when we're talking about translating music through the media, it's through all of these
It's just basically
things.
information. Like people don't think about it in that way. Like these kids just want to drink, man. Like you're 21, you just want to drink and
Yo,
like
and check
you
it.
know
We're
meet
talking
women
about
and all of that.
Nollywood back there now, and someone was just yabbing Nollywood. But you know that like there is a gold mine in Nollywood right now,
Definitely.
which is for music because we don't have a soundtrack culture in Nigeria yet. We have people like Hans Zimmerman, who's like a legend in the movie industry.
Legendary composer.
There is like a huge opportunity for a young person to actually take it upon themselves and say, you know what, Nollywood, I want to make music for Nollywood and change the way sound is in the movies. But everybody just wants to blow.
Yeah, but I also feel like, some of it, the information thing is one, the revenue system is broken in a lot of creative spaces. This thing you just said about how, like, creating like a structure, I think it's one of the biggest conversations here because when you have a media, for example, that's focused more on like tabloid worthy news, you've already lost like a bunch of people who will be looking for analysis or like any kind of like like knowledgeable facts about like what the person's process is like because all they have is like the husband got divorced, the husband married somebody else, like the girl
We
is
don't have people asking the right questions also.
well that's because
Sometimes the questions are obvious. Though.
Yeah,
Nobody
no,
needs
I
to
mean,
ask
some,
them.
okay,
Like,
so
just
for
answer
instance,
them.
right?
there's just no answers
We're
basically.
talking about the big people, and I'm sure, like, maybe you've done certain things with them. They literally shy away from certain questions that are intellectual,
Funny enough, I've
Like-
noticed
right? You
Legend.
have that
Really?
happening. You also have even the journalists themselves not asking the right
You
questions.
have
But
you
I
have you have
think they're
journalists you have
yeah.
journalists who play into the egos
Yeah.
of these people, and knowing that
But I
if
think these newer platforms are like
oh yeah, I mean
Native
definitely
Artists,
because
49th, We Talk Sound, Lucid Lemons. I think we're actually different. I think we're actually revolutionary.
we just need to be able to replicate that model once. It also needs to be
And we
to be
need
sustainable.
to collaborate to be.
We also need to be
become bigger,
collaboration.
to become more powerful.
Because that's kind of the thing, right? About this information hoarders. That's what I'm going to call. I'm going to start
That's
calling
a
them
good
now.
word.
They're information hoarders. That's all they are. Like the problem with these people is the reason there's no transference of knowledge from one generation to the other is usually because they don't care enough about helping the next generation. They see them as opposition. The moment somebody sees you, the moment someone who is say like I say, like a lot of people in the just to segue a bit here and back to the cabal word that she used. A lot of people in the creative cabal are believed to be creatives in their mid to late 30s. And these people are people who are looking at like, 21-year-old, 22-year-old, even 25-year-old kids as like opposition. Like, dog, you are 10 years older than
Yo,
me.
legit, man.
Like,
I've had people like practically.
But there's a reason for that.
threaten
though.
you. Like,
Like,
you are
just
older
for-
than me,
just for,
bro.
like, doing what I'm doing.
Like-
there's a reason for that, though. You know, a lot of these guys were not given these things on a platter.
Exactly. So they think we
feel
must
like
suffer
you need to
Okay,
too.
so my
fight for it.
question
We're
is,
not getting it on
I
the
did
platter
ask somebody
either, so-
this
We're working
question
hard.
a while ago. When in secondary school, you wanted to be a senior, so you could do the things your seniors did to you.
Yeah.
And I never understood the logic of why would you do to someone something you
Something that
detested,
hurts you.
Exactly.
something you hated. It doesn't make any sense. Do you understand? And like, I hope you do listen to it. I hope like you watch this. It doesn't make any sense. Like, stop it. You need to it's. Think about the creative system internationally. It's a lot of collaborative work.
A
The
lot
essence
of
like
collaborative
the
work.
platforms are stronger for these things. So imagine if We Talk Sound decided to do a digital concert and you're able to collaborate with people like YouTube or certain platforms. So you do actually know this is how you're going to get your revenue. This is how you're going to create the experience.
You know, like,
bro.
It's like a typical Nigerian problem, and which is basically like every other Nigerian problem, where if someone is stealing money, he doesn't know that like I can reinvest that money where I stole it from, so there's more to steal next time. It's just common sense.
Actually,
Is it,
common
rather
sense.
you rather take that money away from that place and
Completely.
take it to
See,
Sweden
even
or wherever.
Even the Rockefellers, Carnegies, and co. Even as much as they were enemies and they were huge competitors,
They knew the long-term-
collaborated to
you know, they
elect
knew the
a
long-term
president
benefit
at
of
some point because
collaboration.
they knew that they had to do that. They had to work together. Like, we don't have to be friends, fam. Like,
To be
native
honest.
artists, We Talk Sound, 49th Street, DC Lemons. We don't have to like each other. Like, we don't have to be. Us being friends is an extra. It's a bonus.
I mean,
but
if
it's
you
not
want
compulsory.
to
Exactly, but we have to
make this
be able to have that relationship where I'm like, oh, we're pushing this artist. I think this artist is super talented.
And
we can't do
you
it
guys
alone.
into
let,
like,
let all of us write about him. And when it's your turn to you share, and then we do the same thing. I mean, like, that's the only way revolutions happen.
It's just-
That's the only
That's
way.
why I'm happy
I
about
feel-
the
I
Alter
feel-
movement.
yeah, I feel
and
you
it
know,
just
thank-
broke-
thank-
That's
broke-
what they
despite all the criticism, thank God, right?
You know?
sorry.
Finally, somebody said something I could relate with.
I mean, I felt like the movement was more of a lifestyle than it actually impacted in terms of the industry,
Yes,
if there
because
was.
because I feel like the reason it had to be like that was because there wasn't enough resources to go around. There wasn't enough access. It was only a few people who had access, and the most we could have done, with the most anybody could have done in that position.
Sorry, which is very funny now, because most of the people who benefited from that movement and what it did would shoot you today if you refer to them in that direction. They'll tell you, no, that's not what I am. That's not, you know.
Well, yeah, because
Because they're
ultimately,
trying to
like,
break out of the
no,
niche.
it's
They
also
don't
it's
want to be
also
in the
it's
box
also like
anymore.
everything, like every Nigerian problem. Once it becomes, I love Nigerian problems because they are very unique in the way they come to be. It's always like once Nigerians can't understand something, they label it, and then add a bunch of like negative connotations. It's like same way, and this is something that happens anywhere in the world. When feminism came out, like it was like, you know what, she's just sick, man. Like just take her to. They were literally lobotomizing women because
Yeah.
they thought like, you know, and that's kind of how it is. You know, you give it like you just look at something you can't really control, you can't really label it. Like you just give it, just gaze. It's just the gaze.
I think that there's one thing that I think we should mention in this conversation. It's very different from everything we
Okay.
said.
Right.
so far. But Tidal and MTN's partnership. What impact do you think that has on streaming?
I'm so happy you brought that up in terms of
Yeah.
like, you know, the telco and big, you know, MTN is a double whammy. It's like it's a telco
Yeah.
and it's a big spender,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to music industry. But once again, it's back to an information bubble. People were making money from callback tunes
Yeah.
before artists started to understand how to put their
True.
music on DistroKid.
Yo,
Do you understand how much
True.
greed you have to have
A
to
lot
not
of
want more
money.
people to benefit from a system that actually pays you that amount of money from a big spender like MTN? So I don't really know. Like I feel like at the moment right now, artists are becoming more skeptical about streaming platforms. So Tidal, yeah, is owned by Jay-Z, but then what? It's still a streaming platform.
No, but
it's
what
still
I'm
like a
actually-
fraction
what
of
I'm
revenue you're
actually
gonna get.
isn't even like Tidal or like the value of Tidal as a
Right.
platform alone. Where I'm going is the value of the collaboration to allow people pay with recharge with airtime. You know, you can pay for
You-
Tidal with
With
airtime.
it
That's
kind of breaks the
crazy.
barrier of
That's and I
breaks the
think that's
barrier of
revolutionary in
That's
that.
crazy.
That's
Yeah.
something I know
Okay.
that.
because that was something
That makes sense.
Spinless could have gotten
that's
ahead
something
of.
that
Yeah,
even
and MTN tried it with
I
Music
heard
Plus, yeah?
that even, what
Oh,
you
what
said-
happened
MTN
is-
tried it with Music Plus now that you could
Yeah.
buy-
So-
And I do hear like they were making mad money.
Yeah, MTN.
No, I made money from
MTN
Music Plus, so they tried.
Wow, Dunnie, like
So yo,
money
No, they
maker.
tried.
today just like I'm not here for these big things.
Like-
I'm gonna be making money from
My
these
look making money that nobody
No,
knows. Nobody
no.
knows
Today
where
we
the
go
money
ahead
is.
on the
Please,
radio.
masterclass
Get money in
soon.
my
We need that the
account.
masterclass.
beg.
Please.
So I think that a huge barrier to streaming. I think we should actually discuss streaming a little more if there's still time.
Yeah, we
Streaming
should.
platforms, maybe break them down a little. But I think that a huge barrier to streaming platforms has been payments. Obviously, there's the huge chunk of the population that cannot afford to pay for the subscription. There's also the people that cannot afford to pay for data. So that's where a platform like AudioMark helped. So it's free, and then you can download songs one time and then have them and listen offline without data at all.
Right.
That's the only AudioMark is the only free platform that allows you to do that on its free plan. I think Boomplay now
Yeah,
No,
you're doing it
Spotify
now.
allows
to
you
do that.
on
On the
the-
free plan.
yeah.
No. It's
Really?
premium. It's a premium thing.
Damn.
To
I'm
download
so
songs is a
bougie.
premium thing. So AudioMark so AudioMark was like the natural progression from Nigeria Loaded, whatever. Because at the end of the day, it's the same thing. If you go download from Nigeria Loaded, it stays on your phone. Yeah. Why not get AudioMark?
So you can just have the song on your phone.
5 MB, whatever. Spend it on that song. But then it helps the artist, even though the artist is not necessarily making money from it. It helps the artist in that the artist can have a count of how many times you are playing their song.
Yeah.
Artists can have followership.
You know,
growing.
that's
So
that-
it's
that's
different from Nigeria Loaded,
all of that.
where
All of those numbers are very useful.
they're very
Yeah.
useful, even if it's not
Yeah.
revenue.
Because
So-
recently, that was what, like, I kept seeing numbers from places like that. And I'm like, oh, that's
Yeah,
that's
and
good.
you check even the biggest artists now, about half their numbers are probably AudioMark. Because
Right.
AudioMark is where the average Nigerian who would have gone to download it illegally is now there.
I think
So
what's
that's like
So in terms of solving like payment problems, right? I just feel like I don't like to fill forms, man. I don't like to fill online forms, but we also need to like have a
that
conversation.
Tidal thing is easy. It's so easy.
It's just to
like,
buy-
literally just you don't even buy the airtime. Do you buy the airtime? Okay, you have airtime on your phone. and
You dial like
Yes,
a like a
more
USSD
like you're doing your
code.
Something
data,
from the
right?
app.
Yeah, that's
Like,
great.
it's literally like
So what I was gonna say in terms of what he said
Revolutionary.
around like the organic progression of Nigeria Loaded and all of these things is that I really do feel like Nigeria keeps adapting structures and systems that do not apply for its people.
Thank you.
Like, why am I mean, I can do it, but then you think about the other person who is more easier to do this through, like the recharge card, like you said, and then institutions come in and people come in and they still adapt the same thing. However, when they go into other countries, they ask what's the model that we should work with
but
into
great points, but the answer to that simply is Nigeria. Because I'm aware of like some of the battles.
Yo,
that
we've
have
talked about
been
new
fought.
music. I've said new music
I'm
Friday
still-
so many times.
I'm
That's
still
just, it's just a
talking about
Nigerian
Nigeria.
problem.
I'm not saying
No, I'm saying like you should not blame the platforms that you are saying are coming to replicate the things that are not working. in
You should
quotes.
blame
I'll
how
say
Nigerians-
blame regulation, blame government.
It's also-
blame that
it's also
side.
how
Because
Nigerians-
I know, I'm aware of. I heard that. This
So how was
Tidal
Tidal
thing-
able to do?
I heard it took over 2 years
Okay.
to do this.
And usually
thing,
all those
this
kind of
recharge
that
thing,
that kind
2
of
years,
deal
really.
that
I
kind
know
of deal
even
cannot
other
happen without
platforms,
like
Spotify and Co have also been battling. Even Apple, they've been battling these things.
it
for
can happen without
years.
government like support.
Okay, so sorry. Is that not the importance of collaborations and partnerships like this?
Definitely.
So maybe we can lobby better with the government.
Yeah,
because-
so like and that's the strength in numbers because MTN is huge. They've tried many times. It's just like, oh, I'm not going anywhere. And right, Tidal is looking at, okay, how do I? And which is why I'm going to do it. Sorry, devil. This is why I'm not blaming them completely, but I'm saying we need to think revolutionary in terms of addressing people's needs. Like, where do I meet you in terms of your buying journey? How do I meet you at this particular point?
Right.
So Tidal is like,
Right.
I'm not in a hurry to come here if I'm not going to come here and come here.
I think we
and
sh- that,
solve
that's
the
true.
problem.
Do you understand? So like most times like KPI is that we need to get here by this particular time. Fine, bro, but how long are you going to last when you get to this particular point? So what like AudioMark has the numbers based on what you're saying. What's stopping them from going to a Glow or an Airtel, right? Or a whatever.
The audio market
Yeah.
is mostly free, so they
No,
don't
no,
need
I'm
to-
I
just
mean-
saying. I'm using that because you said they had an
I mean,
organic
even- I
progression
think-
from
yeah,
Nigeria Loaded.
yeah.
if, there,
So
if, there's,
I
if there's
feel like
anything
that
if there's
one-
anything that makes me sad is that like a platform like Spinlet that was so ahead of its time
Yeah.
Couldn't-
That was sad.
dope.
That was
couldn't
I think that's
couldn't
a general technology problem. Sometimes the innovators are not the ones that profit. Most times, innovators don't profit off.
anyway as
the
we're
most of it.
as we're rounding up, I would like every single person to kind of recap their conclusions from like this conversation
One
just
thing I
so
want to mention quickly is that I think is important to translating music through media is charts. We have no charting system in Nigeria, and I know a bunch of guys that are working on
I mean, you are the data analyst, so we're
Yeah,
open.
so they're called
We're open to
turntable
that
Do
charts.
conversation.
something.
They're called turntable charts. I've been working
Oh,
with
I've
them.
seen them.
Yeah, they're all over the TL. They've been posting. The video recently, they big up the video because he was like #1 on all their charts and stuff.
Right.
And the video, obviously, the video.
Yeah, for
Right.
that kind of
Yeah.
platform, for example, I would definitely expect them to do more syndication down the line, more content syndication, so they can at least like amplify the
So
the aggregation.
the issues that they are having now, access, like you said, so they've been trying to, they need like Apple, for instance, give them data. They need Boomplay to give them data. They need Audiomax to give them data. They're working now. They have partnerships now with a bunch of people, but it's not enough.
Yeah, but
So the chart hasn't gotten to the point where it's standard enough to say this is.
I mean,
totally
organically it will grow.
representative.
organically will grow, but because at the end of the day, like we have to be honest to ourselves. Like the data that Apple, Spotify, the data they have on users, on who's buying what and listening to what, this is high value data. Like
Yeah.
they did,
But I mean,
they spent billions of
It-
dollars
at the end of the
to
day,
get that data.
you
They're
know,
not just going to
the
hand it to
power
you.
the power in a chart is basically who is endorsing it. Like,
Right.
That's it. That's
And who
literally what
recognizes
charting
it,
is. Charting
basically.
is basically you're playing to the gallery. If there are two charts and people say, oh, this is the one that it's whatever this one says that we believe, and artists are building their strategies and stuff based on that chart. The other chart is fucked.
Yeah, but like we also don't want a scenario where like because of that every artist just look like for one chart. You're like, okay, you're doing
That's my
charts, Abby.
chart.
That's my charts now. And then
But yeah,
every
like,
week
the
he's
fact
number
that
one.
You can't, there's even the argument of what makes a hit song. Like we have our problems are so fundamental in
True.
Nigeria that we can't even define
makes a
what
hit
song.
song?
Please let's
That's another problem.
let's
entirely.
wait. I'm
Before they
being
pursue.
exactly for the pursue. So
Like
yeah,
literally.
Dolapo, please recap the thing you said about strategy and how we need to redefine that.
Oh yeah, so I feel like structure is important. It took me like 4 years to figure out how to structure one building in order for it to make sense for everybody.
You do give away. Continue.
I think you should, like everybody like who's building stuff should actually think long term, as she said, because that's really what you look at the industry and you see that people that were popping 5 years ago, and I'm not even just saying artists, I'm saying even in terms of like industry people, some of them are not so relevant anymore because they didn't follow the times, they weren't even ahead of the curve. So build long term and then collaborate. I think platforms should collaborate more because especially like we younger, newer
Yeah.
platforms, that gives us more power. And if you're an artist, like feel free to like reach out to people. If you have a decent pitch, like if you are articulate with how you are presenting your craft. Like from just listening to Dunnie talk, I know that if Dunnie ever hit me up for anything,
I mean,
would have said yes.
People
'cause
take you as serious as you take yourself.
she knows
So
what she's saying, but many people can't even communicate properly. So improving that and then reach out to people. People are actually willing to help you. So yeah.
right. So Chidera,
Okay.
information spreading and long-term thinking.
I think as much as you're a creative and an artist, you're a business. So you need to think of your brand story. That's the emotional factor that you key in. When he was talking about Wizkid, he's built that sentiment around the guy from Omarioncruz that's now in the UK, and he has that vibe where he tweets like this and he does like that. There's a brand story to him that people are buying into, is why he would sell out.
You should find
in
your own
different
brand
places.
story. Don't try
So,
to be Davido.
do you understand?
Like-
So it's not about looking a certain way, being a certain way. It's your narrative that's cohesive across every point of your life. If you decide to start doing merch, if you go on tour, find your brand story and think long term. A brand story is not going to pop now. Nobody's going to understand. Like, see the community that Talk Sound is building. That's a brand story that's going to go on forever. Do you understand? So find your brand story and make sure you are intentional and deliberate with every story that you put out, with your music, with your craft, with whatever you're doing. Be very intentional about it. So what happens is that organically you move a certain way and then you get noticed by these people that are like, you know what, if he's able to do this like this, we're going to push him further, because organic storytelling, I mean, there's really no other way. Storytelling is what is going to differentiate you from this artist and that other artist, and is what's going to build that community that's going to make sure that you blow.
Storytelling is why there's no other Asha, by the way. Dunnie, please just recap alternative
I like the way you just
Off the
dropped
mic.
down.
alternative sources of revenue and use of music. Thinking wider about the use of music.
Oh yeah, so I think any emerging artist that is listening to this should think outside the box, because if you're not happy, you probably won't make.
Dunnie said they are depressed, not making money.
Trust me, I know it's hard on these streets for guys.
Is it because you're hungry?
Because music actually moves from it being like a passion to it not really doing what you think you're supposed to do. Then you now become depressed, and I'm like, maybe I should just go and look for 9 to 5. So in order for you to avoid getting to that point, you need to think outside the box. Keep dropping your music, but also think about how to use your music to make money and be comfortable so that you can be happy.
Right, and I think my own final statements would be just find a model that works for you. Stop trying to replicate what everybody's doing. Like the world is kind of changing to adapt to a world where your individualism can be respected. And so just have faith in yourself. Email that person, DM that person, contact that person. Whatever you think you need to know, like find a way to know it first before you depend on some kind of G from somewhere that will say he's going to get your song played this way or get your song posted somewhere. Like have faith in yourself enough if you're an artist. Also have faith in process. Understand that you may not have that story of bedroom to star mega jam because you don't need to, because you will burn out quickly, because you actually need to take your time to go from your bedroom to like the first stage that takes you and the second stage, and then like that you network, build relationships, and you're not dependent on like anybody in like a cult of personality who you have to be caught saying yes sir to, even although you're a big you're a big star that everybody respects, and it's kind of like you need to have that understanding that whatever you are trying to do now will have like a long-term benefits, like how Dolapo and Dunnie were saying, like your catalog is an asset, like that's it. Like if you're a creative person, everything you create, everything you spend your time and energy to like put in the world is literally your own output. You can do whatever you want with it, so you shouldn't take it for granted. You shouldn't take how you present it for granted. And as far as how we'll move from here, music industry wise, corona and everything, I want to believe that regardless of what happens, if you're adaptable, if you're in the right place, if you're looking for the right information, if you're asking the right questions, very possibly, like you're gonna be, you're gonna be able to find your way around it anyway. Thank you very much for sticking with us, guys. My name is Toye once again, guys. Sign out.
Dolapo, follow me. Follow We Talk Sound handle.
Yeah.
If you're a musician and you want help or you want to join our community, just follow We Talk Sound on Twitter and Instagram.
Follow Geeky Midget on Twitter too.
That's not. What's your sign out, please?
Bye guys.
Aww.
Dunnie.
Bye. Official Dunnie at all platforms.
Yeah, Toye Sokunbi on all platforms, and follow artists. Also, if you do anything cool, like, and you feel like a story needs to be told about it, you should contact either of us, I would say. I mean, she didn't have anything to say, but yeah. Thank you very much.
Advertise your this thing too. I'm making it for brands.
You can, like it's a shameless plug. Thank you very much for having us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys,
Bye.
take care. Bye.